Hi again. Let's explore our options for entering our adjustments and explanations into the reconciliations. Here we can see the web interface. This is a great way to work with a small number of explanations and adjustments. But you can see this is time consuming, and imagine that for a large number of explanations, this can be cumbersome, as you well know. As a consultant, I'll first ask and suggest to take a look at your reconciliations to see if we can come up with some auto match rules that are automatically creating these explanations for you instead of having to load up this large of number. But let's say that you do need to load a large number. Let's take a look at our options here. So we have two options for bulk importing. We'll start with, for both of those options, a source. And the source is as an Excel CSV file or saving Excel file as a delimited text file, but some delimited format in any way, shape, and manner. And so we can acquire those columns that's in that field, that's in the file, the fields that are in that file, from within the web interface. And I'll show you that in just a minute. So our first option, as I mentioned, importing, exporting within the reconciliation. And this is through a web process. We can hit a button, say export my transactions, anything I have there, or likewise import transactions. And exporting transactions, we'll see in a minute, that's great to give you a format of the template that you want to use, as well as a backup offline if there's some reason you want to send those to somebody else. Now option 2 leverages our Excel add-in in SmartView to load transactions into the reconciliation. Now let's see how these work in the system as a user. I'm Kerry Lane, and I'm a power user, a preparer for a large number of reconciliations as part of our reconciliation close process. And so we're going to take a look at what I'm responsible for a particular reconciliation related to prepaids. And this is an explanation, a balanced explanation that I'm going to share with you. But the same process is true for explaining source system data and target system data, for example. Different capabilities here. But for prepaids, we'll see that we already have. We'll see. Let me show you here what we start with. Here's our source system ending balance. Here's that one adjustment, one explanation that's already been made. And then here's the difference. And here's where we have to go. And here's that one entry adjustment that I put into the application. So I can simply manually come in and make different entries and adjustments. I could choose to amortize and create those as I want to, create amortization schedules. But let's say I've already got that all prepared like I had mentioned. And I want to import those. Let me start by showing you how we can get a format for how we start to import those. And that's really easy to do. We can choose to export transactions as formatted data or unformatted data. And notice how it says future import. So as we export this, we can send this to a file, and I've already had a file that I prepared and ready to show you. And this is what an export file looks like. You have all the columns necessary to report on that particular explanation or adjustment. Great. So now what do we do from there? I want to show an example of importing from that file back into the web. And so in this case, let's take a look and see if I already have this in there. This is for Office Solutions. And we can see that, no, I don't have this in here right now. But I want to import this. And so we can find that file. I can find that file in upload this into the application. And when this is uploading, it's performing and validating all the data and selections that you've entered in the columns in that file. As I mentioned, there might be different date formats you're using, so it's important to select the date, as well as you might be using different delimiters, as I had mentioned. So there we go. We can see that we've imported, and we have a completion of one, and one transaction created. Now we have 2 transactions in there. Now, something to note too is that I could have chosen to replace anything that's in there by using that option. You see now we deleted those transactions and we only brought in one, which is the Office Solutions. So see how simple that is. And well, let's go to Smart View and see how we can accomplish the same thing in Smart View. Now let me give you an example of the different types of formats that you can load up into the application. And so we have this option here. And by the way, this is how the connection is. It's live connected through Smart View. But we have options here. Transaction types for balance explanations, which that's what I'm performing right now. Variances, adjusting a source system, adjusting a subsystem. So we're taking care of all those key reconciliation items. Then, as I choose to select the balance explanation, I'm given all the different formats that I've created within the application already. And I know that we're going to use prepaids. Now what this just did for me is provide me with a template of required columns and the columns that I need in order to load these back into the system, or load new transactions into the system, or copy them from another file and create them in bulk, right? And so I've already done that. I prepared just the columns that I need, because we don't always need, you don't need to put in a long description, for example, functional amount, functional currency. You can simply put in amount and let the system do the rest for you. And I've already created this. So we can see we have 3 different explanations that I want to load. And since I've already had this initialized as a format, I can simply import these, select what type of transaction it is, and it's a balance explanation. I select my period to which to load these. Those are for open periods. And let's say I want to replace all that are currently in application. So I'll see the same type of file manager that I showed just a minute ago in the web. So we can see everything completed successfully. And as we open up the web interface, I'll refresh this, and there's my 3 explanations. So hope this gives you a good overview of your options for loading up reconciliation explanations, VEs, adjustments. You kind of get an idea of the flexibility and options that you have to do a lot at a single time. As I mentioned before, my goal would be to create auto match rules and explanation rules that will do a lot of this work for you. So thank you. Let me know if you have any other questions.